The 1970s sold us some of the strangest products ever made, and we fell for every single one. From gadgets that promised a new body without any effort, to beauty routines that were a little bit hazardous, this was a time of bold promises and even bolder marketing. Today, we're looking back at 10 questionable products from that unforgettable decade that would almost certainly be banned, or at least laughed out of the store today. Let's start with a product that perfectly captures the bizarre, pseudo-scientific promises of the 70s. If you flipped through the back pages of any magazine from that era, odds are you saw an ad for the Mark Eden bust developer. It always promised the kind of results that seemed too good to be true, and they were. It came with a special cream and a rigid, clam-shell-like plastic device that looked like it belonged in a drawer labeled kitchen gadgets, or maybe interrogation tools. But back then, the idea of spot-enhancing one specific body part felt like modern science. Women were instructed to follow a strict routine of massaging, flexing the device, and most importantly, believing. It was equal parts promise and placebo, with just enough pseudo-medical jargon to sound legitimate. These days, an ad like this would be flagged as a Facebook scam in about 2 seconds. But in the 1970s? For many, it felt like a cutting-edge path to perfection, a perfect example of a product that was built on a hope, a prayer, and a piece of plastic. But the Mark Eden wasn't the only machine that promised a new body with minimal effort. If you didn't want to flex, you could just stand there and let the machine shake you into shape. The Walton Mark X looked like something straight out of a sci-fi salon, complete with a motor, a thick strap, and big promises. You'd step onto the platform, wrap the belt around your waist or hips, and let it jiggle you like a paint mixer. The idea was simple. You could vibrate your way to fitness without ever breaking a sweat. From what I've heard, it felt more like a gentle, localized earthquake than an actual workout, but that didn't stop people from swearing by it. It was the golden age of passive fitness, the glorious belief that you could just stand there and let a machine do all the hard work for you, or at least make you feel like it was working. The machine that promised to shake your fat away, but mostly just shook the room. If vibrating your body from the outside didn't work, you could always try changing it from the inside. Before SlimFast became a household name, there was Metricall. This diet shake came in cans, promised fast weight loss results, and, according to those who tried it, tasted like someone blended up cardboard with sadness. Folks were supposed to drink it in place of their meals, sometimes for all 3 meals, for weeks on end. It was the dominant diet trend of the decade. The problem, of course, was that drinking a chalky, vaguely sweet liquid 3 times a day turned you into a hangry, miserable shell of yourself. Sure, the pounds might have come off, right up until the moment you finally gave in and ate a real sandwich, and then it all came right back. But back then, if a can said science and weight loss on the label, we believed it. The diet shake so effective, you gave up solid food and joy. After you had the perfect body, you needed the perfect tan. And in the 70s, perfect meant dark. Forget sunscreen with SPF 50. The goal was to get as tan as possible, as fast as possible, and the preferred method was a dangerous cocktail of your own making. People would mix Johnson's baby oil with iodine and slather it all over their bodies like a barbecue marinade. The oil helped attract the sun's rays, and the iodine added a reddish-brown tint, so you looked tan even before the burn actually set in. You could smell this concoction a mile away at any beach or pool, a mix of baby powder, salt air, and just a hint of future regret. It was all fun and games until someone peeled like a tomato the next day. Nowadays, dermatologists would faint at the very thought of it. But back then, deep, dark, tan lines were the ultimate status symbol of a summer well spent. the original recipe for a golden tan, which often just turned you a concerning shade of orange before you started peeling.
Remember when your mother gave you a frizzy home perm and you cried for 6 months? Well, times have changed. Here's a home perm that doesn't look permed. It's called Rave.
Now that the body was taken care of, it was time for the hair. And in the 70s, that meant curls. Big ones. For those who couldn't afford a weekly trip to the salon, there was the Rave Home Perm Kit. These kits were basically alchemy for your scalp, a box of chemicals that promised you a head full of beautiful, bouncy curls. They came with plastic curlers, a little bottle of something that smelled like pure punishment, and a dream. You didn't go to the salon, you went to the kitchen sink. Half the time, the results were incredible. The other half of the time? Poodle City. My sister once tried it the night before school pictures. Her curls were so tight, she looked like she'd stuck a fork in an electrical outlet. The smell lingered for days. And the chemical burn? Let's just say some of us learned what "test a small patch of skin first" really meant the hard way. A box of chemical burns and a prayer that promised you Farrah Fawcett hair, but sometimes gave you a poodle instead. If a home perm was too permanent for you, there was the daily ritual of the hot rollers. With a name like kindness, you'd think these things would whisper sweet nothings to your scalp. Instead, they were more like a heat-powered endurance test. The Clairol Kindness Hair Setter was the go-to home styling tool of the 70s 20 hot rollers that promised salon-worthy curls right in your own bathroom. But they were anything but gentle. The rollers heated up incredibly fast, sometimes way too fast. The little metal clips used to hold them in place could scorch your fingertips if you weren't careful. And getting them out without pulling half your hair with them felt like a small miracle. More than a few people learned the hard way that instant didn't necessarily mean easy or painless. Still, they were everywhere. Girls lined up to use them before school dances or family photos, all in the hope of feeling like Farrah Fawcett for a day. Despite the singed fingers and scalp-snatching clips, we swore by them. Pain was temporary, volume was everything. With your hair set, it was time for makeup, and some of the most glamorous products held a dangerous secret. Back when makeup was mysterious and a little bit hazardous, Helena Rubinstein mascara came with an extra special ingredient: mercury compounds. That's right, mercury. It was used as a preservative to help the formula last longer and resist bacteria. Not so great if you value your nervous system, but nobody told you that part. The tube was elegant, the brush was legit, and the lashes looked dramatic and long. If a few ingredients on the back were hard to pronounce or a little toxic, well, that was showbiz, baby. These days, finding mercury in your mascara would land a company on a government watch list and spark a massive lawsuit. But in the 70s, it was just part of the price of beauty. Lashes that shimmered and maybe trembled a little bit for a reason. Aziza Cream Blush On. After the mascara, you needed some color in your cheeks. Aziza was that classic drugstore brand you saw on every girl's dresser. It was cheap, it was colorful, and it was apparently impossible to remove. Their cream blush, from what I've heard, wasn't so much makeup as it was a long-term commitment. The stuff went on like putty, and it stayed put like a bumper sticker. If you accidentally overdid it, you didn't just wipe it off, you had to adjust your whole look to match the new bright red circle on your cheek. Blending it allegedly took power tools, but it cost $1.99. It came in colors that looked like melted crayons, and somehow that was all part of the fun. It was a cheap and cheerful way to add a pop of color that would last you through school, work, and possibly the next ice age. The blush that stayed with you longer than some of your high school friendships. Now, to take all that makeup off, you needed a good facial scrub. This one is actually still around, but the original formula was infamous. Après hit the scene in the 70s with its signature apricot kernel scrub, marketed as a fresh, natural way to exfoliate your face. And it was fresh, all right. Fresh enough to take off the top layer of your skin if you weren't careful. People loved how clean their skin felt afterward, but that feeling came from its incredibly gritty texture. It was made from finely crushed apricot pits, which, while all natural, were anything but gentle. If you used too much or scrubbed too hard, you risked looking like you lost a fight with a cheese grater. These days, most dermatologists would tell you to use it with extreme caution, or maybe not at all. But back then, it was a beauty cabinet staple. Rough, tough, and an unforgettable way to feel like you were sandblasting your own face.
I think I figured it out.
And finally, we come down to the feet. You didn't have to wear these for long to know they were trouble. With a hard wooden sole, no heel strap, and one skinny strap over the top, Scholl's exercise sandals were a sprained ankle just waiting to happen. Yet, they were everywhere. They were pitched as exercise sandals, with a specially carved toe grip that was meant to tone your legs as you walked. Though from what I saw, they mostly toned your frustration. You'd hear that unmistakable clack, clack, clack echoing down a school hallway, usually followed by the familiar stumble of someone trying to stay upright on the slippery wooden soles. Ankles rolled, arches got bruised from slipping off the side, and those hard wooden soles offered zero forgiveness on any surface. And yet, we kept wearing them.